Well, thanks for joining us. I'm here with Jerome Wendt at DCIG, talk about creating a cyber resilient strategy to combat ransomware. I'm Don Jennings, Senior Director of Global Communications and PR here at HYCU. Jerome, I won't take the honors away from you. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thanks, Don. Thanks for having me here today again. My name's Jerome Wendt. I'm the president and founder of DCIG LLC, a technology analyst firm. And we focus primarily on cloud, data protection, and storage technologies, primarily in the enterprise space, and basically cover all things related to that.
Great. So really appreciate your time. I know three things we want to get through today. And for those that are listening to the fireside chat, our most recent fireside chat, again, there's been a lot of discussion about cyber resiliency, cyber resilience, and also what goes into making a solution cyber resilient. Obviously, with the enhanced need for better protection and recovery for ransomware and the rise of ransomware, sort of how cyber resiliency fits into that. And then lastly, I know yourself has taken a good look at the four key components that go into making solutions cyber resilient. I know this is based a little bit on the NIST framework and a few other things that are going on in the marketplace. So without further ado, let's tackle the first thing first, which is, I know there's been a lot of discussion around cyber resilience, cyber resiliency, and what goes into making a cyber resilient solution, but also sort of the evolution of data protection and the need for factoring in enhanced security capabilities as it relates to both backup and sort of classic data protection solutions. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about that, Jerome? And certainly as I have questions, I'll make sure to ask them.
Yeah, I'm sure you won't hesitate to interrupt me if you have questions. That's great. So one of the things I think so here I say really in the last year or two, you've probably heard more about cyber resilience than you've maybe heard, in the past, 20, 30 years prior to this. And I think when people first start hearing about cyber resilience, I know at least when I even started first looking into it some time ago, it's easy to equate cyber security with cyber resilience or backup software with cyber resilience, or maybe a combination of the two, as of that, not equal sign of that on that slide there being equal to cyber resilience. And they're really not the same thing. Both cyber security and backup software are key components of cyber resilience, but really cyber resilience stands on its own that encompasses multiple different things. And cyber resilience is, and we'll get into this more as we talk about this, but it's really the ability, it's really a holistic approach to your whole entire environment and what it takes to, basically just come back on your feet, to basically respond to attacks, to adapt to them, to make sure you can recover. I mean, it encompasses everything. And so you start looking at the attributes of it, like cybersecurity or backup software. Well, if you think you have a cyber resilient solution just by deploying cybersecurity software, that's certainly a part of cyber resilience. But as too many of us know who are in IT, ransomware slips by these cybersecurity defenses that we have in place. And so if it slips by it and it attacks your environment, you have to recover from that. You have to adapt to it. You have to get everything back on your feet. And cybersecurity software itself is not designed to do this. It's basically designed as a prevention and defense mechanism. It's not designed for the whole back end of recovery and disaster recovery and all those different components of it. And then conversely, as sort of a complement to that, well, then if we just deploy cybersecurity software and then backup software, we're ready to go, right? I mean, we've got both those components in place. And certainly backup software complements cybersecurity software very nicely. And it's, again, another key component of cyber resilience because it does provide you those recovery capabilities. But in itself, as we're starting to see with some of the more sophisticated ransomware attacks that are going on today, especially those that are targeting the enterprise space, the first things they often try to compromise for even go after your production data or applications is they actually go after your cybersecurity and or your backup software to compromise those two applications and or the data they contain in them. So if they're compromised once they do start the attack on your production environment, then you go try to recover, use those to recover. You can't because the two systems that you're relying upon. So that's really sort of where you start looking at this environment holistically and thinking about, just those two components alone, you put them together and think you have a cyber resilience strategy or solution. Those are certainly key components of it, but cyber resiliency actually encompasses more than that.
Gotcha. It's actually a good segue. I mean, if you take a look at even conservative estimates where people are talking about the rise of ransomware, obviously, conservatively, we've heard it every 11 seconds. I've even heard it reported as frequent as every 3 seconds. The average downtime is close for most companies that are recovering from a ransomware attack is upwards 16 days. So talk to me a little bit more about why cyber resiliency is critical when you're looking at things like ransomware protection and recovery. And why do you think there's been a large sort of reevaluation of what's available, what's out there to address this?
Yeah, so I'd say ransomware has probably done more to help out, the business case, the rationale for the need to deploy cyber resilience solutions and cyber resilience than any other thing in the marketplace right now. I mean, we can talk about earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, but often they're so abstract and happen so infrequently that it's hard to build a business case around that. Okay. Then you get to something like ransomware, and like to your point, on what happens once every 11 seconds, or 37% of all businesses have been affected. Not just affected, but like in 2021 alone, 37% of all businesses have been affected. Okay, well, you start. Again, I've got a little bit of a background in statistics from, and when you start looking at those numbers, when something starts happening, like, that's basically it, one in 3 chance. And you do that, you have a 1 in 3 chance in 2021, the 1 in 3 chance in 2020, and then the 1 in 3 or 1 in 2 chance in 2022. I mean, as these frequency of attacks occur, it's not a matter. It goes no matter of if it's going to occur. It's more a matter of when it's going to occur. So suddenly, if you're sitting, whether you're in the IT director seat or you're the business owner seat or the C-suite, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen. It's a matter of when it's going to happen. And if you know it's going to happen, you got to plan for this stuff. It's one thing to see like I live in Omaha, Nebraska, is where I live. It's one, and Don lives in Boston. Okay, Don has to think about hurricanes. I never think about hurricanes. Okay, and even if he does, it's like, okay, by the time it hits Boston, it's like, how bad is it really? Here, but all of us, no matter where you live, Omaha or in Boston or San Francisco or Tokyo, it's coming for you. And the more likely it is that it just makes it very likely that it is going to hit you. Mm-hmm. So that really builds the case for cyber resiliency at that point. So now you have to think about, okay, so now that you know it's coming, you have to actually put a comprehensive strategy in place to do this. So now you have to look more critically at those products you put in place. First off, you have to look holistically at your environment in terms of what is your strategy and how do you make sure you're addressing all these different parts of your environment. But then as you start looking more specifically at each of the products you put in place to support your broader strategy, you have to look very critically at each one of these things, especially how they manage and respond to ransomware. How well do they detect it? How well do they respond to it? Can they recover from it? What mechanisms do they have in place to detect it? And it really becomes, again, it just changes the whole conversation. It's not just about stopping ransomware or recovering from it, because it is it's so insidious. Again, we talk about ransomware, how it's evolved. It's not just when I first started hearing about ransomware 5-6 years ago or whatever it's been now, it was like it would come in and get past your cybersecurity defenses and would automatically start encrypting everything. Mm-hmm. It still does that. But it's become more insidious now. Maybe Don and I we actually did a case study on for something for one of Don's clients some time ago, where it actually started sort of silently infesting the place, and then it struck over the weekend when no one was there. And then other ones, sometimes they don't even attack your environment, take more of a covert approach, where they just sort of gather data, then they ship it back to the hacker's environment, and then they use that and they threaten to release it, so they get ransomware. So there's so many ways that ransomware is attacking organizations. A cyber resilient, strategy and solution has to account for all these different ways that ransomware is now attacking the environment. Does that make sense, Don?
Yeah, no, it totally does. I mean, it's actually, again, it's almost well scripted, as they say. If you take a look at, I think you covered this most recently in terms of four critical areas and 4 key components that go into making a solution cyber resilient. I know, right. And classically anticipate was the ability to anticipate, withstand, recover, and adapt. Can you talk to me a little bit more about why these 4 attributes are so important? And obviously this isn't just something that has been created out of thin air. This is groups like the NIST are looking at pretty closely to what needs to go in to make sure that your solution that you're looking to address the ability to be not just be secure and safe, but the ability to recover and respond in the event of any sort of a downtime or malicious attack.
Right, exactly. So like Don said, these are my ideas that Jerome just sitting here on a Sunday afternoon while eating popcorn came up with. These are actually developed by the National Institute of Science and Technology. They've actually been getting input from different parties, and that's I can't remember, but there was certainly 10 or if not 20 different authors and contributors to that particular thing. So it's a fairly well thought out 200 to 300 word document. But really, if you look at that whole document, those were the core tenets that you really have to think about when you look at and I want to stress here, this is a cyber resilience strategy. These are the key areas that he pointed: the anticipate, the withstand, the recover, and the adapt. Those are the broad areas that, as you think about your strategy, that you need to account for. But then you start to get down to, but one thing this report doesn't do that it's still incumbent, and it's your responsibility to find what does anticipate look like for your environment? What do you need your particular products to do? And you have to look, you first have to look kind of holistically, what are going to be the corporate standards that you're going to establish for your different products, but then how do they apply to specific products? I mean, the expectations and the standards, really, from my opinion, the ones that should go to the highest standards are like your cybersecurity and backup software, because again, if I'm a hacker, the first 2 things I'm going to try to compromise are the areas that's defending them or trying to stop them from getting in, those that are going to help them, or that's going to prevent me from getting a ransom, which would be the backup software. So if you're a hacker and you're developing ransomware, you want to attack those 2 things first. So how well do those 2 products or those 2 solutions offerings withstand a ransomware attack? And for instance, I mean, it might just be something as simple as, do they require multi-factor authentication? Because if I'm a hacker and I can crack the password, the default password that's available on on that company's corporate website, that you just download the document. It's like, well, let's go ahead and try admin and admin, see if that gets me in there. Well, what do you know? I'm in with administrative privileges. Why don't I just delete all their backups? Okay, so I mean that's what these guys and they've been known to try this. Or another thing that they're known to try is once they're in, maybe they'll look for anything on a network drive, and there's all those what's the whatever June 2022.bak. Well, shoot, let's delete all those files and get rid of all the backups. I mean, these are maybe they delete them or encrypt them. I mean, these are simple things that that they're going to try and that you can prevent against. So that these are just part of what's involved there. And then as you go over to that's and then what is going to follow it. We talk about anticipate. We talk about withstand. So what is going to be your defining line? What constitutes anticipate? What falls under withstand, and what falls under adapt? I mean, those are kind of nuanced lines in terms of like where which features fall under which category as you look at these different products. And some may fall under multiple categories. Like one thing I'm seeing more commonly is more backup providers working with cybersecurity providers, because backup providers, many of them openly acknowledge, like, cybersecurity is not our thing. I mean, this whole new attack, us being targeted as part of a cybersecurity attack is not necessarily we, started designing our product for, 10, 15 years ago, and we started developing. So they're partnering with cybersecurity companies to help detect, the presence of malware, or to be alerted if there's a large, maybe there's maybe there's a big ransomware series of ransomware attacks going on in the United States or the UK or the Middle East. So they become, cybersecurity providers communicate with the backup providers to make them aware of that, so they can say, oh, okay, they're attacking this particular component. Is your backup software up to date? Can it withstand that type of attack? If it can, great. If it can't, well, then the backup software provider has a, hey, but let's make this job number one for our developers. Get that fix implemented so we can push that patch out or change our software to adapt to that. So these are all the new intricacies that are becoming, that really companies need to be asking of their backup providers in terms of how do we really evaluate backup software? How cyber resilient is each individual solution or each individual product? So our broader overall cyber resilience strategy is really can withstand, recover, and adapt to the future attacks.
Interesting. So Jerome, I know we've covered quite a bit. So if somebody's interested in hearing a little bit more from you or getting in touch with some of the work that you're doing, what's the best way to do that?
Sure. So right here, it shows on my shirt, it's DCIG.com. You can come out to our website, just visit our content there, or it's just my first name dot last name at DCIG.com, Jerome.Wendt at DCIG.com. You can reach me that way and be happy to answer any questions you have, and we can take it from there.
Sounds good. And I know for those that are interested in learning more about HYCU and the cyber resilient solutions that we provide to the marketplace, there is a report available at Cyber Resilient at this URL, HYCU.com, cyber-resilient.report. Or, I'd encourage those to experience firsthand, check out a free trial or a demo of HYCU, or contact us at info@hycu.com. Hey, Jerome, I really appreciate your time. Thanks again for taking time to share some of your insights with the companies that you're working with and the customers you're talking to about what goes into and why now the need more than ever before for cyber resilient to address cyber resiliency. So again, thanks for your time. For those that took the time to hear a little bit more about us and what we're doing, I appreciate it. And thanks again, everybody. Take care.